community input's the main thing, because we're the people that live here and we're the people that should be notified and asked about different things and what they think of the future. So
I guess it's fair to say that the lower part of the Wimmera River is a fairly low, flat area, coming from the mountains and everything and then spreading out to Lake Hindmarsh in Jeparit. I think because of the flat nature, the water tends to spread out pretty well, spread out fairly rapidly and fairly broadly.
This study and its outputs gave us a greater understanding of where the water could possibly finish up depending upon the flow and the amount of water that was coming through all the particular rivers and across the land at the time of the flood. What that then meant was we could have a lot better response. We knew what resources we needed, where to focus those resources, but most importantly what to tell the community and how to have the community to react to these events when they occur.
So the focus of this study is the regional areas between the major townships. So because we already covered Dimboola and Jeparit in the early 2000s, this study sort of fills in the gaps between those two towns, as well as between Horsham and Dimboola. And at the moment I guess it's pretty critical because we had the big floods in 2011 and then small floods in 2010, and just recently we've had the September 2016 floods, which this study was able to provide information for the community, SES and CMA.
I'm David Livingston and I'm a retired farmer, live in Jeparit, been there all my life, or in the district all my life.
Phil King, resident of Dimboola, work at Hindmarsh Shire Council as the Economic and Community Development Manager.
So I'm Gavin Kelly, I'm an Operations Officer with the Victoria State Emergency Service in the Grampians region of Victoria.
My name's Ben Hughes. I'm an environmental engineer who specialises in hydrology and hydraulics, in particular flood hydrology and hydraulics.
Well, the landscape is, as we know we are on a river floodplain, and it's between a high country out to the east and a higher country out to the west, and all the water comes down through Lake Hindmarsh to Outskirts to Whipperfield, Pine Plain, and naturally we get floods every now and then, and I think that people are learning now how to deal with them and cope a lot easier.
This particular flood investigation I've been involved with from the start, as the outputs tie into the emergency management planning for this particular area of the Grampians. So the outputs from this will determine where we need to focus on during the times of an emergency, what warning systems we need to have in place, and what remedial works we can do to make the community a safer place in the future during these events.
I think it really stems from the need to be able to do good modelling of where floodwaters are going to impact. It relates to the planning, particularly being at council, with housing and so forth, sporting infrastructure, etc. You've got to basically know where floodwaters are going to go so that you can then design new developments or new buildings or new infrastructure, roadways, bridges, etc. You've got to have a really good understanding on where those are going to be impacted so that you can actually then prevent those issues occurring. So flood mitigation, I think, is a really important aspect of any planning process.
I was the project manager and I did part of the flood modelling for the study. So what we essentially do is we take existing known and streamflow information and then try and use that to predict the size of future floods. So we take the aerial survey, we convert that to a hydraulic model, and then we apply flows to that model from streamflow gauges, and then we rely on community input to make sure those models are verified to what floods actually look like. So in this project, we modelled January 2011 as our calibration event. The CMA went out and they surveyed flood levels that the community highlighted the flood got to, and then we make sure our model replicates that, and then we go back to the community and then they sort of confirm whether or not our model produces something realistic or something that isn't matching as well as it could.
No, well, I just went along and put my point of view across with a lot of other people, and I think it turned out to be all right at that investigation study.
Even though we don't get floods in our environment very regularly, I think you've got to have all of these plans and management processes in place. The beauty about being in the lower catchment is that we get plenty of time, plenty of warning if there is a flood coming down the river, so that we do have plenty of time to be able to prepare for those times. And in fact, during the 2011 flood, the general comment was, when a flood's coming, the general saying is hurry up and wait. And I think any direction provided into the future, basically to infrastructure improvements, etc., in flood areas, I think is going to be a very valuable resource.